against the Jets. And, a couple of things I just want to touch on right away. The Jeremy Swayman stuff and the fact that it's not done today, it's disappointing to me. I've heard all along that the vibes are good. I've heard all along they'll get a deal done. And I'm sure they will. I'm sure they will. But the team doesn't need this distraction. Don Sweeney can talk about how much he loves the team and how he's always trying to improve the team and how it's his biggest priority and, there's really good people in the room. He is disappointed, he said. He said he's optimistic as he provided an update today on Jeremy Swayman's contract negotiations. But it's almost unacceptable this thing isn't done yet. And I'm sure that when I talk to hockey people, they're like, well, Joe, if you look around the league, this guy's not signed, that guy's not signed. I get it. That's what happens in this sport. These contracts take a little bit longer, but this is now one of your best players. Your best player last year was Jeremy Swayman. And he's still not signed. And at this point, I feel like there is that line in the sand. The Bruins feel one way. He feels another. I think that's all transparent. Swayman said that on the Mark Lewis podcast. And then all of a sudden, Brad Marchand comes out and says, we don't talk about our contracts in public. And then today, Sweeney comes out, and I heard reports from everybody. Like last night, Skaz and I were on the air. We just saw so many. How many times did we say, oh, Swayman, I just saw this about Swayman. Oh, could there be a Detroit trade in there? So much was going on about Jeremy Swayman last night. I think people are excited at the beginning of Bruins camp. They have two huge new additions to the team. They're going to be in the mix this year. Yeah, I think they're going to be a little top-heavy and slow. But early on in the year and your guy's not ready to go, that's on you, Don Sweeney. I'm not going to blame Jeremy Swayman for sitting out trying to get the most money that he can when you can give him the money. You can give him the money. It's what you want to pay. And here we are now, the beginning of camp. Do I think it's a big deal? No, in the long run, no. But what if it takes 2 weeks now? What if it's 3? What if it's the start of the season and Jeremy Swayman's not there? You're going to just let this thing ride until December? When do you actually lock this thing up? And I think it's a bad look for the Bruins. A lot of people look at the players in this situation and say, oh, he's money hungry. No. The Bruins, they took him to task in a business sense in arbitration. He's not over it. If you want to get on Swayman about that, you're more than welcome to. But now he treats it like a business. They treated it that way. Now he is, and I don't blame the player one bit. Now, Korpisalo, could he get you 25 games? Could Bussy give you a couple as well? I don't think this team, with the expectations that they have, could wait until December for Jeremy Swayman to come back. And if that is the case, is he rusty? Did the team get off to a slow start? All those things can be real. But the fact today that Sweeney says he's disappointed and optimistic, yeah, you're disappointed because you couldn't close the deal, bro. And then you got super defensive about reports, which I get. Sure, let it roll off your chest. You're the GM of the Boston Bruins. But pretty defensive today. He was offended by a lot of things. It certainly showed. Some other things bled out of that, too. Could there be a Jim Montgomery extension? That's interesting. I know all this talk right now is about Jeremy Swayman and when will he be a part of the team? And what will that number be when he does sign that deal? How do you feel about a Jim Montgomery extension? Is he worthy? Should they extend the coach long term? Were they a loss away last year of moving on from their coach? The management for the Bruins have a lot of decisions to make. The easiest one is re-signing Jeremy Swayman. Do they want to go long-term with Jim Montgomery? I'll throw another one at you because we talked about it the other night. Sidney Crosby signed an extension with Pittsburgh. 2 years, 8.7. What is Brad Marchand going to get now going into his final year of the deal as well? I know Skaz mentioned that a lot of these players nowadays somewhat go by their jersey number. So if it's Brad Marchand, what do you do 2 years at $6.3 million? They have a lot of decisions to make. I believe Sweeney talked about it as a jigsaw puzzle that's moving. You got a lot of moving parts. You have a hole at the top of your line, your second line. You're banking on young players to step up and produce. There's a lot on the line this year for Don Sweeney. For the most part, I think he's done his job. It has been on the players. I can't blame management for their loss 2 seasons ago. Last year, they probably got further than they should have, but that was because of Jeremy Swayman. You're starting to look towards the future now, right? The guy you start with is Jeremy Swayman. Then you make a decision on Jim Montgomery and Brad Marchand. That's an easy deal to make. So your thoughts on that at 617-779-0985. I did want to touch on some more Patriots-Jets stuff. They play tomorrow night. The injury report came out as well, and looks like the left side of the Patriots line is me and Skaz. You get a rookie out of Penn State. Funny how the rookie you would have thought that was drafted in the first round out of Penn State would be starting in this game. But it happens to be the third-round pick who played right tackle. So Olu Fashanu is drafted by the Jets, not starting. But Caden Wallace will? What does that mean for the New England Patriots tomorrow night? And I have some really interesting betting numbers when it comes to the Pats as underdogs, not to mention the Jets as favorites. Thursday night football. And Aaron Rodgers. Which Aaron Rodgers do the Patriots see on Thursday night? We'll lead it off there at 617-779-0985. We do have the Revs game coming up in just a little bit. They take on Montreal tonight. So we'll be they will be at 7:30, and then we'll be on immediately after the game until 11 o'clock tonight. So if you want to jump in on some calls real quick, the phone number is 617-779-0985. I'm Joe Murray here on the Sports Hub.
Don't go anywhere. There's more Joe Murray.
And sometimes the wheel turns slower, and you have to communicate, and you have to step back and evaluate, and listen to everybody, bark at you for doing things right or wrong. You have to put the earmuffs on at times. I laugh because my son loves the Spit Up on Yourself podcast, and he. Yeah, I did that on purpose, Joe. You're right. Because I'll go back to the inaccuracies of what everybody's reporting. And, it's great entertainment. It's great entertainment. But at the end of the day, it's not a lot of fact-checking going on there. So that part of the business, you got to recognize. This city is awesome for that because they want their teams to win. You guys are covering it because you want them to win. Not hoping we lose, albeit it writes a story that way too. But at the end of the day, you're in it for the juice, to put the team together and try and win. And if it doesn't work, they're going to kick you out at some point in time. So I've said that before. The shelf life is there. Don't know when it is. Just going to work my ass off to put the best team we possibly can. That's why I sit here disappointed, in some regards, but excited in most of the others.
Oh, somebody was sensitive. Somebody didn't like what was said on a podcast. But I will say this. There are a lot of people in this town who've went out there and said, yep, got sources. I got sources, double sources, that the deal is done. And it's not. There are some people in this town that have had sources saying it's not done. A lot of contrasting reports. So a deal's not finalized. How far apart are they? I don't know. Yesterday I was reading that the reports are good and there's good vibes. There's a good vibe going on there between the contract negotiations. Like, Sweeney went off today. I will make everybody aware of some of the inconsistencies that have been reported and are completely inaccurate. I think that being a representative of the Bruins and how we do business and try to keep things close to the vest and respect everybody's own privacy. I will answer questions, but I'm not going to go into depth on negotiations and talks that we've had because we're excited about the players that are here. We're going to move forward. As I said, I'm disappointed, but at the end of the day, I'm optimistic because I think we'll find a landing spot before December 1st. And for those that don't know, restricted free agents need to have a deal in place by December 1st or the season doesn't count and they don't get paid. So Swayman doesn't want that. And that's a long time. That's like 25 games or over 20 games. And normally around Thanksgiving is when you know if a team's realistic or not. But they have time to figure this out. Again, I mentioned the Darren Dreger report yesterday. Positive vibes coming out of Boston. There were other reports out there that the deal was done. And when asked about the report, he said 100% inaccurate. He took exception to the reports a few weeks ago from Ryan Whitney on the Spit and Chicklets podcast that he called the Spit Up on Yourself podcast. He said at the time that the Bruins have not returned calls from Swayman's camp in 3 weeks. Sweeney said there has been constant communication. I think it's BS that somebody says I wouldn't return a call for 3 weeks. Sweeney added, that's inaccurate. I don't listen to the podcast. As I said, my son loves the show. As for the Swayman negotiations, they keep working on it. I think it's on them. This is the only time where I really actually back the player. Normally I don't. But in this case I do. They made it a business, so now he is. Your thoughts at 617-779-0985. Let's talk to Dan. He's in New Hampshire. Hey, Dan.
Yeah, I totally disagree. I want to see Swayman sit until December. You got two goalies down there. You got DiPietro, 2.51 GAA, and, of course, Bussy. I want to see what these guys can do.
So you would rather the Bruins start the year with a disgruntled goaltender and a contract issue that runs through the team at the beginning of the year and let two young guys play instead of Jeremy Swayman?
Well, if you give him that, you don't want to give him. No way I'm giving him a Corey Price type contract. And I'm not giving him a long-term contract because, again, both of these guys had good years in Providence. And if they give him that type of contract, when are we going to see them? This is a chance. Maybe one of them can play. A lot of people think Petrio is the best goaltender in the system.
Thanks, Dan. Sorry about that. We're up against it. Skaz, you didn't agree with that one, did you?
I'd like to meet those people that think DiPietro is the best goalie in the system. I haven't met one yet. Michael DiPietro's played 3 NHL games in his career and has a .771 save percentage. I wouldn't exactly call that promising. He's also 25, so he's not a very young player. So, yeah, no, I'm a fan of the Bruins, so I would like the Bruins to have the best players possible on the ice. I know that might be a wild take to some.
How do you feel after you got all these reports, right? Last night we went through this whole it was awful how many reports were out there. And then we find out today that he's not going to be on the ice and that he's disappointed.
Yeah, if they have so many problems, if they're that upset, Don Sweeney very moody, a little bitchy even, you could say, today. Well, I think that's fair, Joe.
Yeah, no, he was bitchy.
Yeah, okay. If you don't want all those rumors and reports flying around, maybe just sign the guy. I don't know. Just pay him his money. You're going to end up paying him anyways.
How far apart do you think they to actually hold out? How far apart do you think they are? Do you think
million and a half?
Okay,
million.
For their best player last year in the playoffs. I understand there's a camp that doesn't believe in paying goalies long term. I understand there's people that are out there, but this is a different situation. This is a guy you brought to arbitration and made it a business. So what's he going to do now?
Yeah,
he's making it a business.
I'm also kind of in the position where a bridge deal I don't think is a bad thing. I'm almost in favor.
Like a 1 year, $9 million deal?
Maybe
or 2 years?
Yeah, like a 2 year, 16 or something like that. It's probably not that high. Well, I would hope, but who knows nowadays? Because the cap is only going up. That's where Swayman's mind is that the cap's going to make a massive jump in the next couple of years. So if he does sign a long-term deal, he wants that, his value to hold when the cap does jump. But for me, we've seen the Bruins bring in, your Halaks, your Olmarks, guys like that have been, good elsewhere, but not great, and then come here and put up very good numbers. And I think Jeremy Swayman is a very good goalie. I want Jeremy Swayman to be the Bruins goalie. But at the same time, I'm not in favor of paying him, $9 million or something like that.
Just to get a deal done?
Yeah, exactly. Don't do it just to do it. But, yeah, it's a very interesting comments coming from the Bruins front office today.
Very sensitive. Very sensitive. All right, let's talk to Spence. He's in Beverly. Hey, Spence.
Great show, man. How you doing?
How you doing?
I want to make some points about Swayman. Number one, you're going nowhere without him. That goalie is a top 4 talent in the league, number one. The off-season moves that they've made with Swayman in net and the team stays healthy, to Florida, but finishing that team in 6. And the difference between what you're getting with Swayman that Don Sweeney can't get through his head is that this kid actually cares. This kid's a main block there. He's got a great attitude, a great work ethic. He loves the fans. He's not doing what Tuukka Rask did.
No, we don't need the Tuukka slander. Thanks, buddy, Spence.
Tuukka Rask has done way more in his career than Jeremy Swayman has.
I agree with that, but this has nothing to do with Tuukka Rask.
The Tuukka people are insane.
It's like a hill that they died on a long time ago.
And I don't know, the captain of the Bruins seemed to have an issue with some things Jeremy Swayman did this offseason, so I wouldn't be boasting about, every single, he's the greatest guy ever, he's the greatest teammate of all time. Let's pump the brakes a little bit.
Yeah, pay the sway is what some people say in the chat.
Yeah, I'm all in favor of keeping Swayman, but let's not get crazy here.
Pay the sway. One more before we get out of here. Let's talk to Demo and Southie. What's up?
Hey, how's it going, guys? I actually at this point, I do agree that Swayman's a top-end talent and they need him if they're going to make any kind of run at the playoffs. I just wonder if the Bruins are kind of taking a page out of the Patriots playbook of next man up, that if we don't sign him, we can get by with Corpusalo and with DiPietro, and if need be, Jared Bussey from Providence. But seeing as much as I've seen from Jared Bussey and from Corpusalo and DiPietro. I don't think it's a good idea. I think that if you're relying on those guys, that Swayman's not going to sign, he's going to leave and take a big contract. I don't even think you're a borderline playoff team, in my opinion. But I just want to get your take on it. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, I think he was their best player last year. I think when he's in there, it makes their defense obviously better. And I feel like some of their defensemen can be more offensive. So I think it helps there. There's a lot of things that Sweeney talked about today that he boasted about. There's a lot of things they need to figure out. I mentioned their top line. Well, just Patriots just going to be a third line center? Like, it's just as easy as that? Like, there's a lot of things they got to figure out. And what's the future of Jim Montgomery? Are they going to get an extension for Brad Marchand? Is he really going to go into this year without an extension and play his last year here? Like, I hope that's not a storyline. You can't make the Swayman contract be the number one storyline, and that's what they've done going into the first day of camp, where Jeremy Swayman nowhere to be found. Still waiting for a new deal. All right, we're going to be here post-game. The New England Revolution are coming up next here on the Sports Hub. They take on Montreal, and then we'll be here post-game until 11 o'clock tonight. And for our friends, you can join us in Discord, The Joe Murray Show, because everyone likes to hang out. Skaz is here. Our intern Joe's here as well. We'll be with you all after the Revolution game right here on 98.5 The Sports Hub.